All right, welcome back to the Hello Sport podcast. Home of unqualified opinion and unwavering bias. Here, ahead of another fucking ripper interview, dude.
Another one.
We're racking them up. This is our first international.
Yeah.
Not sexually speaking, just first international in a podcast sense.
Well, that's right. Also happens to be really hot.
He's super hot.
Like a fucking hot guest.
Dude, hot.
Like hot.
And this is no disrespect to anyone we've had on beforehand. I'm sure we've had some beautiful people. Braithen Astor comes to mind.
Well, we've had beautiful people, Tom, but this guy's hot and he's international.
And he sounds like he's from Snatch.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect, but he's like got that cool accent.
Well, he's charismatic.
Accent. Yeah, exactly.
And I can listen to his accent all day, Tom.
He's the head of Matchroom Sports, but it's Matchroom Boxing we're here to talk about.
Well, that's where he does his best work.
First foray into the Australian biff market.
That's right. Hell of a market.
And it's a super lightweight fight. Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis, both undefeated. One's 22-0, one's 20-0. Fucking 13 knockouts, 18 knockouts. Serious throbbing dicks that we're talking about.
Big dicks, Tom.
Yep.
Huge dicks.
Big throbbing dicks. They fight each other this Saturday, October 15th at the Brisbane South Bank Piazza.
One of the nicest piazzas in the world, Tom.
Not to be mistaken for a pizza. This is P-I-A. Not P-I-Z-Z-A. P-I-A-Z.
Look, take the A out, it's pizza. Put the A back in, it's a piazza.
Well, you put the A back in and you've got a world-class boxing match under Matchroom. Eddie Hearn. Fucking the closest thing I've been to like being in the room with James Bond.
And for those reasons and those reasons alone, Tom, that's why I'm putting the A back in. Make it a piazza.
Yes, exactly right.
Look, would you mistake him for James Bond? Fuck, I could.
You definitely could.
And you should. And you would.
And you would. Now, if you can't get to the Brisbane South Bank Piazza, then you can also get this fight on DAZN. So, subscription model, not pay-per-view model. DAZN's where it's at. Shout out DAZN.
Shout out DAZN. Shout out Eddie Hearn. Fucking great yarn.
Yeah.
Rip in.
You are listening to the Hello Sport podcast.
You film it in here every week?
No, mate, we're from Sydney. We flew.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we just came up for the day.
Rented out the nice
Jacaranda
room here. Yeah.
It's pretty
Nice
swish.
hotel.
Yeah.
So you were here, right? But they said you were. That's why you booked it near and then you moved.
Because everyone's in the other hotel.
Okay.
And I just thought, it's not a fucking great look, is it? You lot go in the courtyard, I'll be in the Emporium. You know what I mean? So I thought I'd be a team player this week.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Did you? Is it worse down there? Have you?
No, it's not. It's all right, isn't it? Like literally,
it's
like a couple of hundred yards. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're not slumming it, mate. Not
no. I would have stayed in here if I was.
Yeah, exactly.
I checked it out online. I was like, actually, it's all right.
It's not too bad. Look, so this is obviously Matchroom's first, foray into the Australian market. Brock Jarvis, Liam Paro. I was aware, I didn't know Liam, but I know Brock just because of his association with Jeff.
Yeah.
How big of a fight is this in the context of boxing for these two guys, and I guess for Australian boxing for people that don't really understand or aren't as aware?
I mean, I liken this that if this was the UK market, then obviously it's a massive fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you got one kid's 22-0, one kid's 20-0. Right, one guy's number one in the world, Liam Paro, on the verge of fighting for a world title shot. The other one looks like he should be sort of in a mixture between GQ front cover and Hulk, like Incredible Hulk, right? And Jeff Fennick, the whole story. Like Brock Jarvis, for me, if he's got the ability, should be a superstar of Australian boxing. Now, he's been fighting actually in weight categories that have just been too small for him. And I just don't think he sort of had the energy or really the sort of, that bustliness of being able to sustain pressure because he's so boiled down. Have you seen the size of him? So
he's
now,
fucking huge,
I know, but now he moves up to 140 pounds. He's a monster.
Yeah.
Like, and what I love about this fight is the thing is with Australian boxing, it's such a small community. Right, literally, like when I was here in June or July, I went for a meeting in Toowoomba. Someone told me it's only like half an hour up the road. 3 hours later, I'm in a car on the way there. Anyway, got to this gym. Literally, as I walked in the gym, someone messaged me going, "I've heard you're in Toowoomba." I'm like, "What's going on?" So everyone knows everyone. So when we made this fight, so we represent Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis.
Right.
So I said, that's like the obvious fight. And then Liam Paro's team, like Angelo and Alfie DiCarlo, said, "Oh look, we're mates with Jeff, and he wouldn't want to fight Liam. Like they know, Liam's like number one. So then I phoned Jeff. I said, "Jeff, do you want to fight Liam Paro?" He's like, "Fucking right."
Yeah,
and then they were a bit offended. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, although they're friends, like there's quite a lot of needle, and I just think it's an obvious fight. So, for us, obviously we've signed a lot of Australian talent, But it's about learning as well. You know, like you guys are very similar to Brits, in my opinion. Right? You love your sport, you like entertainment, you like a night out, you like a beer. Like it's not rocket science, but you've still got to learn about cities, states, culture. You know, like you can't just bowl in as I mean, we've got the name. People like fight fans know Matchroom, they know me. So that's, you know, we'll sell it out. There'll be 3,000, it'll be rocking. But there's a bigger picture, you know, moving into stadiums and sort of pushing Australian boxing because it's very vibrant. Like you've got a show nearly every week.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're all selling out, by the way. Doesn't mean that, but still, whilst you've got promoters and broadcasters pushing boxing, Australian boxing's in a really good place.
We'll get more on Australian boxing in a sec, but when you're talking from a promotional standpoint and you've got two like really good up-and-comers, both undefeated, is there ever like a concern when you've got them fighting each other that you're like, you're damaging one of them's sort of brand slightly because someone's going to lose most likely?
Yeah, but I think really we're on the verge here. You know, we've got Australian boxing, then we've got the world scene. So you've got Liam Paro, like he's ready to fight for the world title. So really, like the winner of this fight goes on to fight for a world title.
Yeah.
The loser stays relevant, but, you know, maybe stays... Like all these Australian fighters, they want to fight internationally. So we got Stevie Sparks, who we signed, like, from Toowoomba. I've got him fighting Montana Love in Cleveland, Ohio.
Right.
Like, it's a life-changing fight. I mean, he could win that fight. If he wins that fight on American TV, he's like... He's a proper star. Yeah. Ebony Bridges has become a massive star in the UK.
Yes.
You know, Sky Nicholson's fighting all around the world. Dempsey McKean, the same. So they want... Because they feel that Australian boxing's so limited, they all want to fight internationally. We want to change that a little bit, you know, and actually say, no, you should want to fight for a world title in Australia. So I think the winner goes on a global scale, but the loser still stays relevant. But as long as you're in a good fight, like I feel like in boxing, too many people are worried about losing the O.
Yes.
So you've got 22-0 against 20-0. Don't worry. This will be either way, this will be a great fight. And then it doesn't matter. If you get beat, everyone turns around and goes, good on you. Like, you took on an undefeated guy, you'll be back. And Brock Jarvis is always in good fights. But, like, the pressure's on Paro because he's sort of defending that number one position. And, I mean, Jeff Fennick, like, you're never going to get a bigger Brock Jarvis supporter than Jeff Fennick.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, it's like his son, isn't it? You know.
Well, I think he's actually dating his daughter.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Well, keeping it in the family.
Yeah, but Jeff's a lunatic. You know, like, he's a proper full-on lunatic. Nicest, like, nice guy. But I love him. Passionate, you know, and a character as well.
So I guess, can you give us a bit of an understanding of the card, like the undercard of this?
Yeah. Another thing I love about Australian boxing is everyone's up for fighting everyone because, like, to get the opportunity to fight on this card. So obviously you've got the TV fight. So you've got Liam Paro against Brock Jarvis, 22-0 against 20-0. You've got Dempsey McKean, who I feel like has gone under the radar a little bit in terms of Australian boxing because he's been fighting overseas for a bit now. He's top 12, top 13 in the world in the heavyweight division. So I'm looking at people like Anthony Joshua thinking, I want Anthony Joshua to have 3 or 4 fights now, keeping active, but like to box him around the world. I mean, I'm a massive cricket fan. If I can do AJ against Dempsey McKean at the Gabba, like, it's made my life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but
that's the kind, you know.
Yeah.
So Dempsey McKean fights Corte, I think, 19-1, German heavyweight. Then you got Sky Nicholson, who's really a profile's going through the roof. She's fighting Christina Jacobs for the Commonwealth title. Got a brilliant fight between Mateo Tapia and Abdullah Mayweather. And it's just like 2 undefeated super middleweights who no one really wants to fight. And I was just like, right, you two, fight each other. And they're like, okay. I'm like, wow, you don't get that in England. Like, all the managers and like trainers are going, no, I'm not fighting him, he's too dangerous. They're going, chance to fight on a card.
Yeah.
Like, they both want to fight on the card. I said, if you're going to fight, you've got to be in a 50-50. No problem. So I'm like, great, stick him in. And then even on the undercard, you've got like, there's a fight on the undercard. It's mad between Jalen the Wolf Tate, right, who's with Angelo Di Carlo. He's like 9-0. He's fighting a debutant called Reece Evans, who's had like 120 amateur fights, really good. Like, and I'm like, you're debuting against a 9-0 kid. Like, you wouldn't do that in England. You'd never do that in England. He's like, look, I think I'm good enough to beat this kid. It's my debut. What a statement that would be. If it means getting on the Matchroom card, I'll take it. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah.
Ricky Ogden against Sam Cameron Hands, it's like 4-0 against 7-0. You know, Mirko Pizzi against Biggs, it's like 4-0 against 5-0. And I love that, you know, because it's just 50-50 wars. So if you're buying a ticket for Saturday night at the Piazza, you can get there from 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock and just see great fights. And I think that's part of, because you've got like the whole boxing scene comes anyway, right? So now you've got to bring people who haven't experienced it before. Yeah. That's why I wanted to go to the Piazza, because they've never held boxing there before. It's kind of like a gladiatorial amphitheatre, and it's a really good, cool venue because everyone goes to like same thing, Nissan Arena, I wanted to do something a bit different, and you need great fights. And I think we've got a really, really good card and just to start the journey.
How long have you had your eye on Australia for and wanting to come down here and do something?
I was quite fascinated by the football stuff, like with Gallen and like even before that, going back.
We've got a proud history of rugby league players punching on TV.
But
I think
it sells.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the first thing I'm fascinated about is pay-per-view here, right? So really expensive pay-per-view for you guys.
Yeah.
And does solid numbers, but small numbers. So actually, how do you grow a fighter doing those kind of numbers? Like I came to a show here last time I was here in, I think, end of June, and it was Hooney against Goodall, right? Really good, like Australian heavyweight fight. But it was on pay-per-view on a Wednesday night. And I don't know how many buys it does, 5,000, 10,000, something like that. But like, how are you going to grow Hooney or develop a fighter? I understand the model because the broadcaster's not willing to pay the money, so you've got to do it that way. But this is this partnership with DAZN that we've got, which is a much cheaper subscription to watch all our shows globally. So I think that kind of pay-per-view at whatever it is, 60, 70, but I mean, that's always fascinating.
$60.
$60.
Yeah. And it's the same for like rugby league fighters as it is for, Mayweather.
But they did, I think the rugby league guys did a good job to bring awareness to boxing in Australia. But I just feel like now you've actually got some good fighters. Obviously, Kambosos with a win. Tim Tszou's a good fighter. You got Ebony Bridges won a world title. You got other females that won a world title. Sky Nicholson, Liam Paro. You've actually got good fighters now. Stevie Sparks, if he wins, so I think we can start moving away. Look, I was talking about doing Gallen against Sonny Bill Williams. I'm not saying I won't do footballer fights, but I just feel like you're at a tipping point now where there is a genuine interest in the Australian boxing. Yeah, you have. And I think now what happens is, it's a bit like cricket, as the audience changes, if you want to bring in a new audience and new attention, 2020 cricket really did that. Test match cricket just wasn't really the right product for the new age audience.
Well, outside of the Ashes, no one really cares.
But if you bring people in with 2020, they'll fall in love with the game and then they'll actually enjoy test match cricket. Yeah. It's a bit the same with YouTube boxing or, the footballers, is they go in, Gallen, I don't really know anything about boxing. Watch boxing. It's good, this boxing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Next thing, you're watching Tim Tszou. Then you're watching Hooney, then you're watching Liam Paro. So I think they've done a really good job. But for me, the focus is more on the boxing and grassroots, from the bottom to the top. So grassroots all the way up to the elite level of the game. And you've got good amateurs here as well. Boxing Australia does a good job, and that's really the key, the progression. If you can start unearthing a couple of Olympic gold medalists that can go on, and you will do, because there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah. How do you go coming into different markets, using Australia as an example? And we're friends with the dudes from No Limit who have sort of done a lot to basically bring boxing back to the sort of forefront of people's interest here. How do you go moving into different markets, and do you give a shit about stepping on toes, or is it like, do you try and sort of be, cordial?
We actually come in peace here.
Yeah.
I don't often, in all honesty. Like when I went into America, I pissed everybody off. And I don't know whether it's the right tactic or not, but I'm just going to be myself. We had a big budget, we went in, and I was probably a bit obnoxious. But over here, where we're not really, I'm not actively looking to take over. I'm looking to take part. And of course, we want to dominate wherever we go. We like to win. Yeah. But I really like the guys. Matt Rose and those guys, I've known him for a long time. I think he actually does a brilliant job here. I think, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but a lot, and I think he may agree with this, a lot of what they do is based upon what they've seen us do in bigger shows. And I copy UFC. I say to all our guys, watch UFC. And they probably say, look at match, because I look at the graphics and I look at the press conferences and I think, she looks like one of our shows, which is a compliment to them, you know. And I think they've done a fantastic job. You know, Tasman fighters, Dean Lonergan's been around a long time, Angelo Di Carlo's a character. Like, you need all those people in boxing, because without that competition, and everyone's trying to outdo everyone. I mean, no one really likes each other. When I came and met everyone, I was like sat down with everyone. And like, I'm not saying who said what, but it's not really like, you know, you don't want to work with him or you don't want to work. But that's the same with any boxing market around the world. So, look, No Limit do a brilliant job. Tasman, Angelo, Dean, and I think it's important to stay. There's no reason to fall out. We want to sign the best Australian talent, no doubt about that. And we've got a really strong stable. There's other Australian fighters we'd love to sign that are contracted to those guys. We're not looking to nick them. But of course, you know, we have something that's different to other promoters. We have a global platform and a global schedule, so we can promote these guys in big shows in Australia, in London, in Vegas, at Madison Square Garden. It's quite unique opportunity for fighters.
Do you think that's why you have to be like maybe more boisterous going to like a US market, because it's just bigger and it's maybe more competitive? You've got to swing your dick a little bit and try and make some noise.
You do, and I think like when I went into America, people criticise us for, you know, you came out, you told everyone about your big budget. You should have really gone in under the radar. Fuck under the radar. Who likes under the radar? That's not me. You know, over here, but because I'm not looking to come here and do 12 shows a year and like, I don't really need to do that. Our brand is big enough to have the credibility to come here. And also, I guess I've matured a little bit, because when I did go into America, I did go in, I say pissing in the wind, but like, I thought that I understood the market better than I did. And I was probably a little bit naive to think that I could go to New York and to LA and to Texas and think it was all just like London. You know, and that's one thing I've learned, is that you have to understand the local market. And we're learning that all the time. You know, I come here last night, I've been walking around this morning. You know, I'm saying, you know, I want to see more visibility on the streets. You know, we've seen, like, we're going to be sold out on Saturday, but we've seen huge amount of ticket sales in the last 3 or 4 days. So, okay, you guys buy a bit later. You know, whereas in the UK, they buy on the first day of sale, and you don't really sell a lot. I don't know whether they're more organised or what, but
we buy late.
But that's different to the UK. I mean, you still sell on fight week. You know, but we've got, I don't know, 300 or 400 tickets left. And,
I don't reckon I've bought a pay-per-view more than like 45 minutes.
45 minutes is pushing it.
Pay-per-view is one thing, tickets is another thing, but, you know...
tickets,
but again, I think people are used to always being able to get tickets for Australian shows. So it's not
never
like...
sell it.
But basically, I mean, I went to the Huni fight. Like, it was, you know, it's a small... For a fight of that magnitude, it's not easy to sell tickets. This is a new market, you know?
It's no secret that Australians are like sport mad. Like, if you look at the AFL and then rugby league, it's basically split down the middle of the country, but both sports like punch massively above their weight. Do you think boxing can get some momentum going where it becomes like, it taps into how sport mad Australians are?
I think it's...
Do you think that's ever a possibility, or will it always be a bit niche?
It's all based around the talent. Right? So what you need a superstar. Right, how much do you look like Christian Bale, by the way? Has anyone ever said that to you before? I mean, look, you're not as handsome as Christian Bale.
Well,
who do you always get? No, you always get
Jake Gyllenhaal. So I'll take it.
Mate. I mean, he's absolutely loving life, isn't he? Christian Bale, you look like Christian Bale. What Batman?
He's going to most people sounded on that for the rest of his life, mate.
Gets chucked around once in a while.
We'll leave it there. So, but you need a superstar. You know, you need, and you know, Tim Tszyu probably isn't quite good enough. Like,
not enough panache, do you think? Or is it
great? I think what he's done for Australian boxing has been brilliant. But you need an Anthony Joshua, right? You need, and they're so rare. You need a Canelo Alvarez. You know, you're going back to Tim Tszyu, going back. You know, Costa Tszyu. Like, you need a guy who can dominate globally, and you need a guy where the younger generation want to be like that individual, and it grows grassroots boxing, it increases participation. You've got fighters now that can compete on a world level and win world titles, so that's going to help. But you need, like, if you're going to become a big sport, the other benefit you guys have got is the funding from state governments. Like, it's quite unique. Like, we don't get any funding in the UK for events. You got Haney Cambosis. Melbourne government want to pump $4 million into that, and to the rematch. Which
they all
means
bid with each other to
know.
get the right.
They bid with each other for rugby
But
league
they're
games.
they're paying for the rematch, which really, like, not being funny, like the first one. No, but
it's not on the same.
We were at the first one. We were like,
I know, but amazing that the government want to. But and if we come over here and bring Anthony Joshua or Canelo Alvarez, there's going to be funding for that. So you've got a government that want to bring big events here. So you need world level operators in terms of talent. You need to bring consistent big events. I remember watching Hearn against Pacquiao from the UK, thinking, bloody hell, wow, that is unbelievable. Pacquiao in the Suncorp, and he ends up winning. And I feel like Hearn, he had a bit of a chance there with Hearn, and he'd done a great job. But you need consistent performers and someone that can dominate and characters as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how important do you think is having a character to being a global sensation?
So
Anthony Joshua's got like a nice smile. He's big. He's brash. He's like cocky,
he
but
looks superhuman.
He looks superhuman. He's got this look, this feel, like Brock Jarvis, for example. Very good looking. It's something like how much of that goes into
so important, but also
superstar.
how they're built, in terms of their profile. So like with AJ, the first thing we did was aligned him with Under Armour. Next thing, he's in every store globally. He's on billboards on Times Square. He's in London. He's in Tokyo. Signs up with Beats. He's on all the billboards everywhere. You need brands to carry those guys forward. So, if a Tim Zhu was fronting up a campaign for, I don't know, Gatorade or Powerade or Lucozade, and all of a sudden he's all across Australia. That's the art of promotion. But you've got to have that look. Like, again, going back to Brock, not saying Brock's going to get a massive global deal with Powerade, but he's the kind of kid that if he comes through, beats Liam Paro, fights for the world title, you can at least imagine him, on the front.
I could see him in Calvin Klein's.
For sure. I mean, but that's really, you need. The problem is with boxing is it's down the pecking order of so many sports in many different markets. In the UK now, it's actually probably top 5. But you go to America and it's like, basketball, baseball, American football, ice hockey, college football, college baseball, college and then UFC, and then it's like boxing's down there. So, but over here, obviously, it's hugely dominated by your football, and also cricket and other sports. And but again, it's just about talent. And I think you've got a lot of fighters now that are going to be fighting for world titles, and with people like us using Australian fighters around the world in big fights, in big platforms, I think it has lots of potential.
When you've got I guess when you talk about boxing being sort of lower down the rung with the other sports generally, one of the knocks on, I guess, boxing is just having the best fight the best sometimes. You had it with Floyd and Pacquiao, and then obviously Joshua's off losses now, but there's been the Fury Joshua yarn, and then it was on, and I saw an interview with you where you were like, fuck. Sometimes it's when you least expect it to happen is when it's potentially going to happen. But then you've got Tyson Fury's old man on Instagram being like, it's fucking off, it's done. And you're like, what's... It seems like sometimes boxing can't get out of its own way when you're trying to get these big fights together. What is your perspective on that and trying to get these fights done?
Well, look, you look at the UFC model with Dana White. Well, I'm incredibly jealous of that model because basically you're just told who you're fighting. So you sign a contract and you fight. You get your money and you fight whoever, so it's like, just let you know, you're fighting June the 13th and you're fighting him. Okay? See you there.
I'd win.
Yeah. I know, But it's like, depends if you came as Batman. You know what I mean? But it's like, but in boxing, the frustrating thing is, and promoters get the bad rap sometimes, but you have to understand, we want to make great fights. We want to make big fights, big shows, sell tickets, drive pay-per-view, do big numbers. But you're dealing with an advisor, a trainer, a lawyer, and ultimately they're very difficult people. I mean, Tyson Fury, all of a sudden we're negotiating, he's going very well, and comes out on Instagram and says, you've got to sign it by the end of tonight. Otherwise it's off. And it's like, what? And now he's fighting Derek Chisora.
Yeah.
This is 2 weeks on.
Yeah.
They still haven't got the fight. So why did we have a deadline 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And now you're still negotiating with Derek Chisora. But anyway.
Also, why would he fight someone like Chisora?
It's a trilogy.
But that's
I know, but he's already beat.
Why the fuck?
But that's really, Tyson Fury is the master of deception, right? And I still have people, he was in a fight with Deontay Wilder and he was like, I'm going to give my entire purse to the homeless. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I still have people coming up to me going, you know, I like that Tyson Fury. You know, he gave his whole purse to the homeless. I'm going, not only did he not give his purse, he didn't give $1 to the homeless. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, I'm thinking, but just now, people are like looking at the Instagram and he's like, I'm retired, I'm fighting Joshua, now I'm fighting Chisora. Yeah. And they're like, what? He's just, I don't know, he's all over the place. But you go back to characters and profile, he's a great, I mean, look, I met him, I was going to sign him, and we were in Monaco probably 4 years ago. And this is when he was 27 stone, like he was, you know, he had his big prop, yeah. And I was sitting here looking at him, and I just thought, mate, you will never lace up a pair of gloves again. Yeah. I mean, he made me look like Brock Jarvis. You know what I mean? And I'm looking at him, and then fair play to him, like what he's done to come back is incredible, like incredible. So, but I feel like going back to your question, boxing gets a tough rap sometimes because it does make great fights, but sometimes the bigger fights slip away. The bigger problem is the politics, not just between promoters, but between networks. So obviously I work for DAZN globally, and someone might work for Fox or Showtime or, you know, like similar over here. You know, and that politics would apply over here. If I've got a big fight that I want to do in Australian boxing, look, we had it recently with Ebony Bridges and Shannon O'Connell. So we wanted to do the fight on DAZN. You know, Matt wanted to do it on Fox. We ended up can't agree a deal. We got a purse bid. I win, obviously, but you know, no, but actually in the end the girls win because they end up making a load more money. Matt should have just done a deal in the first place, you know. But so, and that's not working in the best interest of boxing. That's just working for the best interest of your company and your network. So you want the best fights on your network. You've got it now with Errol Spence against Crawford. You know, but now there's no escape. Crawford's a free agent, so that fight should be getting made. But another problem is fighters are vastly overpaid, most of them, in relation to their commercial value. You know, purses are going through the roof, but ticket sales aren't, pay-per-view numbers aren't. But it's just the competition between promoters. And that's the same, you know, with the purse bid the other day. And like, you know, we're here now, so like No Limits are going to probably be paying more money to fighters because they don't want anyone to go to Matchroom, and we're going to come in and start, you know, we're paying Jarvis and Paro top money, and that word will get out, and like, so it just keeps raising the bar. Great for fighters, not necessarily great for us. So I just think that it comes down to if the fighters and the teams want the fight.
Yeah. Is it also like in terms of just who you're dealing with, like at the high end of any sport, right? Like, but specifically like fight sports, it seems like there's almost screws loose with like you've got to be so like narrow focused and extreme. How much do you have to like be aware of that when you're dealing with? I mean, I guess dealing with other fighters, as you said, there's like lawyers and all this shit that sort of separates you. But with your own fighters, like just dealing with like almost just these very intense athletes, like how aware of that are you when you're dealing with it? Like having to massage it and be aware. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I think that it's all about personal relationships. But I've had it. I know Eubank Ben fell through, but that fight nearly fell through previously because Eubank wanted to be first on the poster. Right? Yeah, and then I said to him, let's toss a coin. Like, neither of them are champions. Yeah. And he goes, no, it has to be Eubank Ben or there's no fight. And it's like, So I go, all right, well, let's toss a coin. And he goes, no. So I go, fuck, okay. Well, can Conor Ben walk second? No. I said, well, can we toss a coin for that? No. Yes. Okay. So I'll go back to Conor Ben. Right, anyway, as we go to sign a contract, Eubank says, I want to walk second as well. I'm like, no, mate, we're tossing a coin? He went, no, I've changed my mind. He's like, fuck. So I phone up Conor Ben. He goes, no way, no fucking way. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, 3 months I've been working on this fight. It's really going to... So at that point, I have to go to Conor and say, Conor, listen to me, right? One of you is going to like lose this fight because he's completely wrong, right? Yeah. I agree with you, but we're going to lose this fight. Well, we'll lose the fight then. No, we can't. We can't lose the fight because you're worried about him going first on the poster. So then at that stage, it's the personal relationship for him to trust you enough to go, all right, we'll do it. And in the end, he went, oh, fucking, go on then. I'm like, whew. You know, and then it didn't even happen anyway. No. So it's like all that work. So, but that's just an example of what we're up against. We end up getting the blame for everything. Yeah, generally me. But that's like a classic moment where a fight can, and that might be the same with Crawford against Spence.
How do you keep like calm in those situations? Because fight sports, like more than anything else, appear to fights can fall over for a myriad of reasons. Like, when do you relax about when a fight's going to go ahead? When they walk out?
Yeah, literally. I mean, you saw it last week. You know, it's the worst business in the world. Like, I say it like this. Every show has 20 problems, right? Imagine doing one a week, which is what we do.
Yeah.
So it's just the worst business in the world, because I'll wake up in the morning, turn my phone over, and I've got our US business and all the problems flooding in. And that's before I actually start my day. You know, now we've got Australia, now we've got Italy, Spain, Mexico, all around the world. So it's problem after problem after problem. But we also, I love what I do. But you have to, you know, life's about putting yourself in positions time and time again. That's the same in sport as it is in business. And that's how you improve. That's how you get used to handling situations. When Jarrell Miller failed a drugs test for Anthony Joshua at Madison Square Garden 5 years ago, I felt like I was going to crumble to the floor when I got a call. You know, I was like, I had to go into another room, and I was like sitting there going, we'd sold out Madison Square Garden. I was like, I just went numb. Now, like the same with last week, dealing with it, you end up getting a blame, whatever happens, but you're like, okay, you've been here before. It's the same when a fighter makes his ring walk, or when a cricketer walks out in front of a massive crowd. Like you keep putting yourself in positions. So, and experience of dealing with situations is everything. A bit like the Ben, ring walk stuff. I've been there before with AJ or with Frotch Groves or with like so many different fights where you know how to talk to a fighter. You've been here before. It's not like, oh God, what am I going to say to him? It's like, come here, let's have a chat about this.
How do you deal with someone like, you signed AJ like from when he started, right? Professionally. Yeah. So you're sort of like, I don't know exactly the nature of your relationship, but I guess it's sort of like some sort of father figure. You've been there to see all of this development at the highs and then now like the lows after a loss. What do you do with something like that? Because obviously there's like the business mind for you where it's like maybe you're not now, maybe he's not necessarily the top draw fighter he was before he lost to Ruiz or to Usyk twice, but like how do you handle that, like the business side of things?
He's a mate, really. Yeah. I mean, like with all the stuff going on last week with Ben Eubank, like he was the first one messaging me saying, listen, just checking in on you. Fucking I've seen all this, like, you're all right. Just keep going, mate. Just like, and that's the relationship we've got. He's like, it sounds cheesy, but he's an inspiring individual. When you're around people with great energy, and he's one of those guys. Like, he's amazing what he's achieved and his mindset to keep going. Like, I always feel like it's why you don't really see a lot of people from wealthy backgrounds making it in boxing. It's a tough, brutal sport. You've got to be cut from a certain kind of cloth. But what fascinates me with winners, people like Canelo Alvarez, people like Anthony Joshua, is when you come from nothing and then you get it all, how do you keep that fire burning in a sport as tough as boxing? It's like Marvin Hagler said, it's very difficult to get up and do your morning runs when you're wearing silk pajamas. It's the greatest line in boxing.
Yeah, it is.
Because when you've got it all, like Canelo Alvarez used to sell ice pops on the street of Guadalajara. And he dreamed of being a fighter and winning world championships and having a big house. Well, he's done it all. So how do you get up at 5, 8 in the morning, throwing up on your hill sprints, then come back, have an hour's sleep, then go and spar 15 rounds?
And he's been fighting professionally since he was 15.
And then get in your Bugatti and go to your 20 million mansion and still have that. That's because you're a winner and because you love what you do. So those guys are incredibly inspiring. So for me, I love it when I've got a close relationship with a fighter because one, you want to do more for them and the responsibility. There's nothing better as a promoter when a fighter says, I trust you. So look, you go to them and you say, this is the plan. We've got this. And they say, whatever you think's best. Like, as a promoter, to have that responsibility, that trust, that's when you've got a very close relationship. And that's what we got with Anthony Joshua. We've had him from his professional debut. He believes in us, but he'll still make the decisions. But there's a trust. And that's why, when he lost to Ruiz at MSG, that's when you feel like your world's come crumbling down as well. And, when he lost to Usyk recently, same thing. And he had his little, wobble in the ring and little tear at the press conference. You're all in it together.
You it's funny when like you talk about the Ruiz. I've noticed like you always seem to be quite well composed in those moments. So after, obviously, like I wouldn't expect you to be there fucking crying with him, but like like you do. There's this thing underneath, you can sort of tell. It's like you must be gutted for the guy as well, but you sort of got to sit there and be like, well, it's a great fight. No, look, Usyk looked really good, and you're like, But it looks like it must burn.
Just experience.
Yeah.
Just as I said earlier, you know, like I remember when he got stopped to Ruiz, that was his first defeat. And no
really
one
wasn't
expected.
expected,
No,
yeah.
no. And I remember sitting there, and the worst thing was, I thought to myself, I'm going to wear a tuxedo tonight and a bow tie, right? So I thought, Madison Square Garden, my first ever show, right, at Madison Square Garden. Sold out.
Tuxing up.
Yeah. And I look back on those pictures and think, what a prick you are. You know what I mean? And like...
Edit the photo.
Because I know, but I was just like, oh, and I was in the ring after and like with it on and just. But I remember when he got beat, I was just like, my dad was sitting next to me. He's a Hall of Fame promoter.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, again, I went, fuck, right to my dad, and he went, listen, mate, it's boxing. Get in, go on, like get in the ring. Like I'm like, okay, you know, get in the ring, and then got to go and do the press conference. And, you know, you're there and you got Andy Ruiz there with his dad and a Mexican flag and all these belts that we've had for like 5 years. And I'm going, you know, I'm so happy for you. You know, I'm thinking, done. And then AJ comes up later. And that night I actually walked home from MSG back to my hotel in Soho, which was like 2 or 3 months. I was just like, what private and every now and again I'd stumble across some drunk Brits like going, Eddie, what's that AJ? He's useless. Whoa. I'm like, oh mate. I'm like, yeah. So I'm a failed athlete, really. Like I think we all are.
Yeah.
We'd all love to be a professional sportsman, wouldn't we? But
what did you fail at?
I was a good cricketer. You know,
Okay.
I played county cricket, but I was never like.
You'd probably get a run now.
Yeah, I would for England. Yeah.
The way you go.
I would have, if I could have done anything, I would have been a sportsman. Football, like, I was just never good enough. So being involved in sports is the next best thing. And my dad always said to me, if you can get 1% of the adrenaline that a fighter gets when they walk out, you should be very happy. And I feel like I get 40%, 50%. And in fact, when I did Katie Taylor against Amanda Serrano at Madison Square Garden, I wore my tuxedo again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and the bow tie, and we won this time. Yeah. But when it was a close decision at the end, I sort of looked down and think, I'm never fucking wearing this thing again.
Were you thinking about the $1 million bet?
No, it's like, the thing is with Jake Paul, you never know how, so we're at the press conference, you know, and I knew he'd pull something like that, you know, during the week. So he's like, okay, you think you're so confident, you know, I bet all my jewellery, you know, he's got these terrible watches on, like cubic zirconas everywhere. And he's like, all my diamonds, you know, I bet that. I said, what's that, like 50 grand? Like all of them. 50 grand? It's $500,000. I was thinking, it's definitely not. But I went, well, why don't we just make it $1 million then? And he goes, bet. And I went, sorry? I was like, I just went, what? And his hand's out, right? And now I'm thinking, shit. And I think Katie Taylor's going to win. Yeah. But it's a 50-50, you know. So I'm thinking, I'll take the bet, but maybe I'll lay it off, you know, at the same time. So he's like, so I'm like, yeah, well, look, we'll talk about it. And he's like, no, bet. And now I'm sitting there and I'm looking out and it's packed, like the crowd of press. I'm like, fuck it. Well, we'll paper it backstage, you know. We'll get, because we'll bet then. I'm like, yeah, what? And I just thought, fuck it, and everyone's going, bet. And I thought, fuck it, like that. Hooray! So I'm like, oh my god. So then I go back to him. I say, because I don't trust him to pay anyway.
No.
So I said, look, let's get a little contract drawn up, you know. And then the commission come on and go, guys, like, I really don't think it's a good look. Like, you're the promoters of the show. You're having $1 million bet, and like people are going to start talking about, you know, paying judge. Like, well, so I was like quite happy to go, all right, well, look, we'll leave it. He's like, oh, okay, well, yeah. And then obviously I won the fight, and I was like, huh. And everyone's like, but publicly everyone was like, did you get your $1 million? And I was like, you know what? Leave it. Let him keep it. And everyone was like, wow, man's got some money. You know, but deep down I was thinking, damn.
What was it like working with Jake Paul? He's like 25. He's a kid in many respects.
Yeah,
So.
they're very bright, those guys. You know, I did KSI against Logan Paul. I mean, Logan Paul, his brother, is really, really sharp. Like, super smart. I mean, have you seen him in WWE? Unbelievable.
He's like a legit WWF.
But he's an incredible athlete, full stop. KSI. You know, any kid that starts his own YouTube channel, the next thing's got a #1 hit. You know, he's boxing Floyd Mayweather. I mean, they're
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, they're really clever guys. Jake's also bright, but he's a little bit more wackier. But you need to be wacky in boxing. He genuinely thinks He's a world-class fighter. Like he thinks.
So that's not bullshit.
No, he comes up to me at that fight and he's going, I beat Canelo. And I was like, and I looked at him. I was looking for his mic, because I thought maybe he wants to capture a bit of this for social content. Yeah. And he's not wearing one. And I'm like, I'm looking for a camera, and there's no camera. I went, what? And he went, I will beat your boy, Canelo Alvarez. I'm like, Jesus. Mate, you are, because he's got all these guys in the gym like telling him he's, and he's not. But he didn't like it because I said to him, you're average.
Yeah, I've never seen an interview with that.
I said, that's a compliment. Like there's a 95.
I'm being nice to you.
I said 95% of fighters are average. Yeah. But he's better than some pro fighters like that. I thought that was a big compliment, but he didn't like it.
He didn't love it. No. But again though, like when you're both co-promoting a fight, it's like you're an established promoter and you've been doing this for a long fucking time. Like dealing with a child essentially relative to you. Like, do you just find yourself being like, what the fuck?
But you just use him.
Yeah.
He used us. We use him. I can bring the credible boxing audience. He can bring, different kind of audience. Hopefully people that tune in to watch that fight who wouldn't traditionally do that as well. So he has a massive platform, very powerful messaging. So it actually worked really well. You got us working hard on the sort of traditional, this is one of the great boxing fights of all time, historic nights at Madison Square Garden, and him with his crazy antics and different audience. And it did huge numbers, that fight, and he was a part of that.
Would you do any more of that YouTube stuff? Or
probably not. Like it was, look, the numbers were massive. I did it at Staples Center in Los Angeles. We sold out Staples Center, did like 2 million pay-per-view buys globally.
Jesus Christ.
But I just felt uncomfortable, like, I don't know. It was at like the press conference and I started talking about each other's mums and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Is it a bit lame?
And I was I was just sort of like melting at the stage.
What's your old man think about that?
He's a boxing traditionalist. He's just getting his head around female fighters, of which he loves now. But when I first signed Katie Taylor, he was like, come on, son. Women don't fight, like that's what you're up against, that audience. And now, once he's experienced it, he's like, wow. But it's the numbers. Like, we'd finish a press conference and I'd look at the numbers from the press conference and think, like, that audience is just huge. That's why KSI has #1 hits. That's why Logan Paul is in the WWE getting millions of dollars.
Did that sort of translate to your own notoriety being more like, so I feel like you're more recognizable than the Matchroom brand, right?
It worked well for me because now, I'm going, if I pick up my daughters from school, they're all like, the kids are all over me because they know me from Jake Paul, KSI.
Yeah.
Like, do you know KSI? Do you know KSI? I'm like, yeah. It's like, wow. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've been promoting Anthony Joshua and all the Canelo Alvarez and, now you want to talk to me about KSI. So it's been part of the method behind the Matchroom brand has been, and I don't mind saying it, has been building my brand. Because I look at WWE, I look at UFC, and everyone's got a figurehead.
Yeah.
So they're not always totally dependent on talent. Talent's still key in whatever you do. But when I say to you, tell me 5 things about UFC or 5 things about MMA, you go UFC, Dana White. It's probably the first 2 things, or Conor McGregor. And that's
Joe Rogan probably gets it right.
Yeah. But I say WWE, you go, or wrestling, you go WWE, Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
And in boxing, probably I come in the top 5, right?
Yes.
But that's really the aim. Because I need to come to Australia and people go, oh, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom. I'll go to that because I've seen their shows around the world. And that's how you expand globally as a business, by having a credible reputation for quality events. And we push my profile.
Yeah.
Still push the fighter profiles, but it's important for me to be the guy banging the drum globally wherever we go.
Do you think that has led to like other promoters getting under their skin a little bit? I know, I think just recently I heard Lou DiBella talking shit about you on on Ariel Hawan.
Yeah.
I know you've had
but they don't stop. They don't stop. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like Lou DiBella, Leonard Ellaby, he's the other guy.
Oh yeah, he's Mayweather's.
Is that Mayweather's guy?
Yeah, hates me.
Wasn't there chatter about you fighting each other or something?
Yeah, but like, I don't know, because I had a couple of amateur fights when I was young, but I'm pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But problem is, you never know if one of these guys can actually fight.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-50s, but if he not, like I said to my dad, I went, Dad, I reckon me versus Ellaby, it's a big fight. He went, Ed, you're useless. He went, you'll get knocked out. I said, yeah, but if it's 10 mil, he said, it don't matter. He said, no amount of money. Yeah. If you get knocked out, you're done.
Yeah.
Like your credibility. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right,
Yeah,
okay. But like they just in America they don't understand sarcasm. Like for
They don't. We were
Brits,
talking about that yesterday.
Brits, they have no
we
idea.
love sarcasm.
And same here
right?
in
So
Australia.
I'd done an interview and someone asked me, why does Len Ellerby not like you? And I said, I was in a funny mood. I said, probably he's a bit jealous because I'm very likely to be the next James Bond. Right? It's only a stupid line. So he's come out and done an interview and gone, no, like he honestly, like how does he think he's never even done a film? Like how's he gonna, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
right.
mate, no,
That's
mate,
what you
you
do,
know, I know.
mate.
So
Mate,
like,
mate.
Go
but
back to sleep, mate.
I said, I went at him the other day. He was like moaning about something, and I just came out and said, mate, how can you talk about doing big shows? I said, all you ever did was carry Floyd Mayweather's jockstrap, and he went mental. I mean, he said that he was going to stomp me out. And recently I was at a Canelo Triple G fight. I was like walking around in Vegas. They were like, are you bothered about bumping into Len Ellerby? I was like, no, fuck him. I was like walking around the casino going, a little bit of extra security in the wings. Yeah. So they really don't like me. But I feel like people love that at the same time.
They do love that shit.
And some people go, oh, it's stopping you making fights. But at the end of the day, it's keeping the conversation going. The conversation must never sleep about your fighters, about the sport, about boxing, whether that's beef with another promoter, whether that's the fighters hating on each other. Like, the conversation has to keep evolving.
If you're in a room with like a Lennon Ellerby looking to get a fight off the ground, would there be chirp in the room? Or is that all just...
They really don't like to be honest, it is detrimental sometimes to making fights. Like, because if two promoters like each other, it's much easier to make a fight. Like, it would be very hard for me to, like, we were going to do Haney Cambosos. I had Haney. And basically, DeBella really blocked me from doing a deal. And Devin had to take the deal with ESPN to get the fight with Cambosos.
Right, so that's what I was trying to work out.
Because DeBella had Cambosos.
Yeah, and they wouldn't do the deal because it was like a global TV deal for the opponent, and he wouldn't sell it to DAZN because DAZN wanted different markets. But really, it was like half was that and half was like, fuck Eddie.
So then did you let Devin go?
Yeah, of course,
so he could
because
do it?
I wanted... I was been with Devin for the last 4 years. He won the world title with us. He made a fortune with us. But he always wanted to be undisputed. And he sort of come to me and said, look, I don't want to leave you guys. Like, I said, mate, you're not going to get the fight with us. So go and take your 2 fights on ESPN and then we'll talk and we'll come back. But we always dreamed of being undisputed together.
Yeah.
And it was a kick in the nuts. But I'm never going to stop a fight again. Like, you can't just turn around at that point and go, no, you can't do that. Like, that's an arsehole.
Will you go watch him fight on the weekend? Or
I won't. I mean, it's early morning, isn't it, on the Sunday? So probably not. Probably stay here and get some rays in Gold Coast if we don't get a lot of sun. But not really. Yeah. But I think he went like the first fight wasn't overly entertaining, and it'll be the same. He's just very good. Like, he's very good at what he does. You know.
Just back to you're talking about. Like, I guess your old man's reactions and all that sort of stuff. What was it like coming up under your old man and sort of his, reputation and everything like that? Were you always, I know you said you want to be a cricketer. Was there ever were you always earmarked for this role, like in terms of your family business?
When I left college, I went out and worked for a sports management company. I used to represent golfers on the European Tour and PGA Tour because I didn't really want to work for him. Yeah. Like, growing up, I was kind of always known as just like Barry's boy. Like, I used to be at the shows since I was 7. Yeah. So I'd be in the change room, I'd be carrying belts out, I'd just get everywhere.
Shane McMahon.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, and it was like, but he came from nothing. And obviously he wasn't, super wealthy when I was growing up, but I came from a privileged background. But he just like beasted me because he hated sort of sport kids. So he was like, growing up, the mentality we had was winning, right? Not taking part. There was no fluff. It was like, how many runs did you get today, son? 6. Useless. What's the matter with you? Go out there and smash them tomorrow. Okay,
tons on nothing.
Yeah, it was. And that was really like, you don't get given anything. Although, again, I had a great upbringing. It was like, it was just like, you got to go, no, you got to clean my shoes before you do that, because he was petrified of me. So like it's a very strong working class mentality of just relentless grind, really. And that's really what got him to where he was. So growing up, that's really, and I sort of looked at him and growing up, I never could tell people quick enough that I was Barry Hearn's son. But I guess when I got sort of through my teenage years, you start to think, you're actually going to, how do you achieve something in your own name with a really successful dad? Well, you got to outperform him. And now we joke because people call him Eddie Hearn's dad, you know, and it's like, he's my best mate. So we have band but growing up, I was just like, no one even knew my name. I was just his son. Yeah. And now people are, oh, you're Eddie Hearn's dad. And I love it. We love it.
Was there a point where like you earned his like respect in the business world where there was you know what I mean? Like trying to get it, I assume.
It was probably, when we signed Audley Harrison, I went back into boxing and I told him, you know, we were going to go out, he was going to win the European title and I was going to get him a shot at the world heavyweight title. And he was like, and I did it. You know, it was a bit of a disaster because he lost for the world heavyweight title. But then there was a moment when we did George Groves against Carl Froch in Manchester and it was quite a controversial ending. And I did the rematch at Wembley Stadium, which is our national stadium. And I phoned him up. I said, I've just been to Wembley. Like, it's unbelievable. I'm going to do it there. And he just went, fuck that. It holds 80,000. Yeah. He went, you're mad. I said, Dad, honestly, I've seen online, like, I just feel like this fight is huge. And he's like, mate, you're on your own, son. And I sold it out in the first day. And I think after that, he was like, come on, you crack on then. And he loves it because he pulled out of boxing many years ago and moved into darts, which has now come over here as well. It's huge in the UK because boxing was a complete ball ache for him. So he pulled out of boxing and now he just watches me battling with his old foes. You know, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, Don King. These are people he was hustling with and fighting with every day. Yeah. And now he just like watches me going, go on, son, go on. I love that interview with Bob Arum. He hates you. Go on, keep going. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Like, I'm losing hair and like, you know, like, he's just like, keep going. Send me the checks, you know?
What made you get into boxing if he'd left the sport? Was that
just
sort
a
of like
fascination growing up, like as a kid, you know, like getting into change rooms, watching fighters win, lose, cry. You know, I've seen some amazing things, some amazing nights. I've seen some terrible things, you know, terrible moments that will stay with me and haunt me forever because I've been there. You know, I've been in change rooms when fighters are getting, you know, resuscitated, when fighters are getting taken to hospital. Like, and as a 10 or 11-year-old, like, you remember those moments. And like, it's just, I just find the sport so thrilling. There's nothing like it. I mean, it doesn't make sense, the sport. You know, sometimes I'll go on national TV in the UK and we'll be debating. You know, there'll be, you know, a head specialist or a concussion expert. And how do you actually justify it? Yeah. You know, and you do, because it actually changes so many lives. Like, you have to understand about the opportunities it provides for people. And if you look at the safety of the sport, actually it is getting better compared to other sports, but it's still tough to justify. Because when you talk about the dangers of rugby or downhill skiing, like, the aim of boxing ultimately is to defeat your opponent and to land blows on, and it's very tough to explain to people unless you've been in it and you've seen it and you've touched it and you've realised how great the sport is.
And where'd your mentality come from, or like your new age approach to boxing, where, you know, it's sort of like keep the conversation going 24/7? Like, that's very much the sort of modern media, I guess, world. Was that always, did you learn that somewhere? Is that
no, we were the first to do it, but it just seemed natural, you know, probably just timing, bit of luck that we grew with that social media age. I mean, my dad always says, you're so lucky. Like, when I was promoting, we'd have to go down to like the train station and just like put up posters on the walls. You can reach 1.3 million people with one tweet. Like, it's amazing. But he said, but the downside of that is you have to listen to the criticism and to the opinions all the time. Because I've never been one, and when we got so big and I got all those followers, I never sort of turned it off and went, guys, you handle those accounts. I do everything. But I read too much because I'm passionate. You know? So I go into my DMs.
Do you respond? You're like,
sometimes, yes, sometimes, Does it affect the other day, he was like, I shouldn't really do it, you know, but you go in it now and again. He's like, he's been doing it for months. He's just like, remember? And I looked at him and he was like, and I think it was like something like Dave's Engineering Services or something like that on his Twitter, and he had like 3 followers. And I just bit. You know, I went back. I went. You just keep cracking on, mate, with Dave's fucking engineering services. You loser. Or something like that. And he's like, he come back. He's like, all right, mate. Oh, no need to be like that. I'm like, you sent me 3 months of a beer. I shouldn't really buy it, but you're passionate about it. And they wouldn't say it down the street. They'd ask you for a photo.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, But I do read too much. But again, I feel like if you're really being part of that conversation, you can't just take. You know, you do a great show, you get compliments. Great, great. You can't, and then you do something wrong or you do a shit show. You've got to take the rough with the smooth.
Does it affect you though? Any of that shit?
Yeah, not as much as it used to.
Yeah.
Like, so you have rough week. We had a rough week last week with Eubank Ben, and like, it's just, you know, like again, people reaching out, are you okay? You know, I'm like, yeah, but I appreciate that, and I think that's important. Actually, I think that conversation of, especially men reaching out to men saying, just checking in on you, like, you okay? Because it is an interesting talking point. But the answer is, yeah, I'm really okay. You know, but we go again. Like, that's just the mentality. And you know, you get kicked in the nuts, and like, you know, boxing's a bit like having a fight. You know, like last week I'm getting beaten up, and I sort of go home and I just think, fuck. You know. Same like the Canelo Alvarez Anthony Joshua story. I don't need to do this anymore. Yeah. You know, but I want to win. And I want to beat everyone. And I ain't stopping for you. So go fuck yourself. That's the mentality. Yeah. So you know, you get the criticism, you bounce back, you go again.
Yeah. I read somewhere that you were like, oh, who knows, maybe I'll retire at 50.
Yeah, I don't want to do this. That's one thing for sure, because I look at these people like Warren and Aram. Aram's 91.
Oh, we saw him, mate.
We saw him when he came down.
Melted candle.
And listen, respect to him, right? Because the long... But, mate, he's doing interviews. Yeah. Fucking the fucking Eddie Hearn. And I'm watching him going, mate, you need to get to a beach quick with a nice cigar and a margarita and end of. Leave it. Stop. Because I'm doing it. It puts you in a bad mood, right? Because you're dealing with arseholes all the time. You're dealing with aggravation. He's got to listen to me, doing an interview. He's probably thinking, fuck that 43-year-old. What does he know about boxing? I'm 91. I did the Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle. Fuck. Like, but you don't want to be like. But I understand if you've got a passion for what you do, it's hard to walk away. But this sport, mate, drains the life out of you. So probably 50. 7 more years, and I'll go. Like, people go, you won't. I will, mate. You won't see me, mate. I don't. You know, I've given my life to the business. Really, my dad's still going. He's 74. Built the business from under a, stair cupboard in Romford, right? And he loves it every day. But we're not. Just because my dad did it doesn't mean I've got to do it. And I often say to him, like, there's more to life, but it's hard. It's hard to make that decision to walk away, but. It is. People think that you're successful and you got this and you got that, but mate, it's a daily grind, and there's struggles in everything. Doesn't matter how successful you are. It's like Anthony Joshua. People look at him and go, "Wow," and then you see him break down at a press conference, and it's like, "Oh wow, yeah, he's struggling." Yeah, everyone's got struggles. Doesn't matter whether you've got no job or you're making 300 million a year. Everyone's got their struggles.
Yeah, seriously.
We're talking about obviously like you've got Dave's fucking engineering up your ass. And but there's also like, and I didn't know this until Eddie showed me today, but like there's a page called Out of Context.
No context.
No context. That is fucking hilarious.
But that's been massive. Like, people still think I created it. You know what I mean? But there's this guy called Andy who messaged me years ago. And he's like, look, I love your interviews. I'm going to start this No Context Hearn. Do you mind? I'm like, this fucking lunatic. How big's that going to be? Anyway, next thing, 200,000, 400,000, 1 million followers. And it's like everywhere. And everyone's using it. Yeah. But again, like the Jake Paul stuff, I get people coming up to me now going, oh, you're the Instagram guy. I'm like, no, I'm the boxing promoter.
Yeah. So that's what got me onto you like years ago. I'm like, this is fucking hilarious. I was hung over on the couch just scrolling, getting funnier and funnier.
So I embrace that. I never take myself too seriously. But the guy come out, he said, look, now I want to do a merchandise range and mugs and stuff like this with your quotes. I went, now hold on, that's a step too far. So I said 25% to the local children's hospice. Next thing, he sent them a check for like 15 grand. I'm like, shit. Hold on a minute, that's only 25%. This guy's making a fortune, So, but it's been, again, it's just part of like the brand, the life, like the laugh, because it's like we're all just out to have fun and a laugh, and I think just don't take yourself too seriously.
Definitely. In wrapping up, we appreciate your time. We were trying to work out, you got a day named after you or something in Fresno or some bullshit.
It's a funny story.
What happened? And then did they take it away from you?
No. So I did a show in Fresno, California, right? And my team comes to me and says, look, the mayor's here, and the mayor wants to officially announce Saturday, the day of the show, I can't remember, October the 22nd, as Eddie Hearn Day. I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking Martin Luther King Day. So I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. And they're all laughing. I'm going, no, genuinely, this is unbelievable, right? So I've gone up to him, I've gone, thank you, to the mayor, thank you. He's given me a plaque, right? 22nd of October, 2019, or whatever it was, 20. Eddie Hearn Day, Fresno. I'm like, so I've turned out, I've come off the stage, I went, it's unbelievable. I went, we'll have to do a show in Fresno every Eddie Hearn Day. And they went, oh no, it's only for this year. So it passed. The next day it gone forever. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, no, obviously every Saturday, October 22nd in Fresno is Eddie Hearn Day. No, just tomorrow.
That's how they usually work.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was, exactly.
That's
it's
how
now
they
your
usually
day
work.
forever.
Yeah.
That's
not just today.
No.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Martin Luther King Day wasn't just one day. I'm not saying I'm as big as Martin Luther King.
No, sure.
Surely it's close.
But in Fresno, maybe
if I said that to Leonard Ellerman, he would come out and go,
this fucking guy. Well, maybe we make today Eddie Hearn Day in
Why
Australia.
not? Thank you.
October 11. Is it 11? October 11?
October the 15th for the first show. That can be.
Okay, we'll do that.
Just for this year.
We can do
perfect.
that. How do you, what are your hopes for the Ashes next year? How are you feeling?
Do you know what? I think, what's sad about the Ashes is growing up, it was everything. As a kid that was playing cricket, I go back to me growing up, Ian Botham, and I look at your team, right? When I was growing up, Shane Warne, who I knew pretty well, Mark Waugh, Steve Waugh, I'm talking about, Glenn McGrath. Top bowlers, even before that, Merv Hughes, great characters. And I just feel that, and again, with cricket, I just feel like sport's become a little bit robotic. And you've lost, the characters. Even Premier League football, you hear the stories Manchester United players that were going out on Friday night and turning up, Brian Robson, Norman Whiteside, great players. With
Bosnich,
hangovers.
probably.
Yeah, Bosnich was right. He was right lively. He wasn't just hungover. And I'm not saying that that's what athletes should do, but when you go back to those cricket days, that was wild. You imagine the Aussies back then.
Oh, mate.
Rock star shit, sort of just.
But isn't that and I just feel like those characters, I can't really name now more than 2 or 3 Aussie cricketers. And I just feel like cricket's lost a little bit of that. All sport has, in a way, because it's become a lot of money. It's become a lot more serious, become a lot more scientific.
But in the same breath where people will criticise the sort of players being bland, then when a player shows a bit of personality, they also
yeah.
It's
exactly.
who the fuck's this guy? I think he is.
What happened recently in the rugby league grand final? The players that won celebrated in a way that people thought was oh, you fucking rat bags. It's uncouth. You can't. No one knows what they want anymore.
But ultimately, they're the guys that are remembered.
Yeah.
People like Warney, people like all those guys, they're legendary. The stories are off the charts, And actually, to be remembered, it's one thing to be remembered as a great, but it's also another thing to be remembered as a character and an enigma. Someone that, and a lot of these geniuses are flawed. Shane, one of them. He was a genius. So unfortunately, geniuses have some kind of flaw in their character or personality.
Yeah.
Also, no one's perfect, right? Anytime you get into any situation, most people fuck up at some stage.
Yeah, but nice to see real people at least.
Yes.
Rather than an agent saying, no, you can't do that, go to sleep. So there you go.
I mean, if the Aussie cricketers now got on the piss and had 100 beers on the way to England, could you imagine the fucking the fallout would be biblical?
I know,
but that's a story that we dine out on.
After we won the Ashes, was it last summer?
No, it was in Tasmania.
In Tasmania, and they were celebrating on the roof of a hotel, and they pulled the cops up, and they got them all fucking sent back to their room, and you're like, what the fuck's going on?
Where's the good old days?
What's happening?
Mate, unbelievable.
Anyway, mate, look, thank you very much. It's been
Thanks
really nice
for
to
having
meet you. Nice to chat. So Saturday night, October 15th, Brock Jarvis, Liam Paro. On DAZN
On DAZN all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah, and down at the South Bank Piazza. Get yourself there.
Beautiful.
Love
Thanks,
it.
mate.
Thanks for your time, mate. Cheers.
Could you two just not talk anymore?